Hello again, it's Kevin Smith from Baton Rouge. Project MUSE is a powerful and useful research tool, and I'm thankful for Liberty making it available to us. Numerous sources on the Cold War and the Reagan military reforms of the 1980s were available, including many primary sources. Most of the secondary sources were articles, but several books not previously identified were also found. These works are available freely as downloads or for online viewing. Much to my chagrin, this included some that I have already purchased. It was encouraging to see the work of others regarding the Reagan military reforms. As noted in previous videos, Reagan is a polarizing figure. Scholars are divided over how to interpret his actions and the connection to the events. Most scholars seem bent on denying Reagan any credit for any positive development in the 1980s. It is difficult to avoid the sense of a political grudge in their work. However, several of the sources located did offer a constructive analysis of policies and programs pursued by the Reagan administration, and these dealt with specifics of problems rather than superficialities more common among his critics. Barry Posen and Stephen Van Evera provided an excellent example of early critical appraisals of the Reagan program in a 1983 article in International Security. They raised legitimate questions about the fiscal sustainability of Reagan's new hardline to communism. Financing the Cold War was a persistent challenge for containment dating back to the Truman administration. Posen and Avera argued that U.S. forces were already capable of meeting non-nuclear threats and that any increase was unwarranted. They offered several case studies in support. However, in these scenarios, they frequently overestimated the availability of U.S. forces to meet a crisis. For the Middle East, Posen and Van Evera envisioned a quick deployment of a U.S. Army Airborne Division and 2 Marine brigades, with larger reinforcements coming in the succeeding months. The first Gulf War of 1991 demonstrated the flaw in this thinking. American forces in Saudi Arabia had to be augmented from troops stationed in Europe, nothing to say nothing of the need for the coalition forces added as well. The American military was simply not big enough to defend Western Europe and fight a major conflict in the Persian Gulf simultaneously. This problem was a major policy goal of the Reagan reforms that it sought to correct it. By comparison, the Soviet Union was structured to fight multiple conflicts in Europe and the Middle East with existing forces, which were quickly supported by their extensive reserves. Even so, this article demonstrated an important critical analysis of Reagan's strategy, but also revealed the failure of many of his critics to fully recognize the disparity between American forces and the Soviets, which Reagan's program sought to rectify. Similarly, another article in International Security from 1984 examined the details of Reagan's program. B. Bruce Briggs and Jeffrey Record engaged in a fascinating dialogue over the strategic soundness of Reagan's defense policy. Bruce Briggs provided a review of a previous article by Record and noted several flaws in his analysis. He alleged that Record favored President Carter's failed defense policies, détente, and was unjustly critical of Reagan's strategic approach, claiming it too bold for the limited American resources. The U.S. was spread too thin. Record provided a response to Bruce Briggs and first questioned whether his work had even been read before it was criticized. He asserted that his arguments were not opposed to Reagan's program, but that dealt with the question of are the means being made available to carry it out. He did not question its necessity, writing, "I have always supported a 600-ship fleet and have long been critical of the Carter administration." Such a debate as this exchange is excellent for it examines both the means and goals of Reagan's strategy in the context of meeting the challenges of the Cold War. Cassie Bork and Michael Wallace also examined the effects of Reagan's military spending by focusing on the impact on local economies. New London, Connecticut is used as an example of this Keynesian economic boom the community experienced because of the submarine base and the shipyard. Upwards of 50% of the labor force was employed in the industry that provided real defense and deterrent value. Both were quick to point out that spending defense dollars for purely an economic benefit is not worthwhile. However, they do make the case that it is not simply the military which benefited from Reagan's defense program. This conclusion is in contrast with other relevant scholarship and thus quite useful in my research. These works and others provide valuable insight into the issues of my proposed dissertation topic. I'm Kevin Smith, and thank you for watching.